And good evening. Thanks for watching this 8 Sports Now special. John, Kevin, and Ron and myself will turn back the hands of time and relive one of the greatest shows in college basketball. 30 years ago this week, the Runnin' Rebels crowned themselves kings of the college game. Now, they were a collection of players that really energized college basketball fans. Like the 1990 Runnin' Rebels, they wore the black sneakers, the baggy shorts, the custom uniforms, never before seen on a college basketball court, inspiring fans for years to come. Before there was the Fab Five, there was this team, the Runnin' Rebels. Larry Johnson, Stacey Ogman, Greg Anthony, Anderson Hunt, among others. Now, they claimed they deserved to win because they worked harder than any other team. When you have the best team with the hardest workers, you can overcome just about anything and everything that stands in the way. The 1989-90 team started out 3-2 on the season with losses to Kansas and Oklahoma. They were 9-3 after losing to New Mexico State in early January. They also lost at LSU and then went to Santa Barbara and got beat. But don't forget, the Big West Conference wasn't a bad league. They sent 3 teams to the NCAA tourney that year. The Rebels overcame a lot more than injuries that season. 9 months before the tournament, the NCAA sent investigators to campus 11 times. 10 players off that team were suspended at one time or another for various academic or rules infractions. Most were unpaid phone bills and hotel incidentals. Greg Anthony was suspended for 1 game over a can of nuts. Seems nutty, but they rolled into the NCAA tournament ranked number 2 in the country. The Rebels sailed through the opening rounds. Only Ball State in the Sweet 16 gave them a test. They breezed by Loyola Marymount in the Elite 8 to reach the Final Four, where they beat Georgia Tech, setting up that historic championship game.
Drew 19,000 prospectors to the...
It's nice to be in the Final 2, and you know, it'll be a good game for us because we match up so well inside, and you know, we're just going to accept the challenge.
It feels great. It's hard to explain.
Oh, I feel great.
I love my team. We're playing in the championship game, and I'm very proud of the guys.
All right, now that game set up what would become one of the greatest performances in an NCAA title game, Duke versus UNLV. Both teams seeking their first championship. It was billed as good versus evil. The good boys from a private, predominantly white university against the rebels, seen as the bad boys, the thugs, the renegades. With the backdrop as that, the curtain was about to drop.
Into McNichols Arena as 2 teams seek the strike gold of the... Tonight, one of them will win their first NCAA championship.
Nothing was going to stand in the way of the Rebels. They ran past Duke, jumping out to a 47-35 halftime lead and never let up. The Rebels ruled the day. A mile-high celebration with Anderson Hunt's 29 points leading the way. But it was that stifling defense that forced Duke into 23 turnovers, and on the other end, converting those turnovers into easy points. There was no sweating with that white towel, but still, Tark wasn't about to put it down. Instead, Duke was getting ready to hoist a white towel. After scoring 47 in the first half, UNLV scored 56 in the second. It was David versus Goliath, only this time Goliath had the bigger stones, knocking out the Blue Devils, winning 103-73. Largest margin of victory in a title game, and the only team to score over 100 points in a championship. Rebels enjoying a mile-high celebration in Denver.
But this night belongs to Las Vegas.
I feel great, you know. It just feels so great, you know. I really can't explain how I feel because it's probably the ultimate feeling I've had since I've been playing basketball.
You know, honestly, I still am. I just haven't sunk in yet. I'm just, you know, I feel good.
It's the best team's ever played against me in 15 years. You don't know much. Really? I mean, you guys were fantastic.
The media and the press is going to call us whatever they want to call us, and I mean, you can call us bad guys. You can call us. What was it? What did they call us the other day? Thugs. You can call us thugs. You can call us hoodlums. But at the end, put that on there too. You know, we appreciate it just for us to put national champ on it.
All right, what a game. Boy, it was a night to remember. One person who was right there in the middle of the party was Lois, the wife of the late Jerry Tarkanian. Now, Kevin Martin caught up with Lois, who cherishes every moment as a Rebel fan. Her deep roots, boy, they run deep in that program. So many branches of memories. That night will be never forgotten. Hey, Kevin.
Exactly, Chris. This game might have been played 30 years ago, but when you talk to Lois Tarkanian, she'll make you feel like it was yesterday. And she shared some of her favorite memories with us from that unforgettable run. Take a listen.
This night belongs to Las Vegas. They have won their first ever national championship.
It's the 30th anniversary of the UNLV men's basketball 1990 national championship. Lois, can you believe that it's been 30 years?
I can't believe it. It just doesn't seem like it was more than a couple of years ago. All the excitement and all the love the players had for each other was wonderful.
During that Final Four game, the come-from-behind win over Georgia Tech, when the Runnin' Rebels pulled off that win to punch their ticket to the national championship, what kind of emotions were going through you that UNLV had finally gotten over that hump and was in the national championship game, especially the way that they won?
Really, I had more tension during games than joy. When we won, I'd always have joy. And then, of course, after we won, you got to prepare for the next game.
And then in the national championship game, you know, it's stark contrast. You can kind of relax a little bit because UNLV pretty much dominated Duke from the tip and went on to win by, 30 points.
I mean, here they were 20-some points ahead, and I'm still nervous and intense. I just, you never know in basketball. And, Duke was a great team. The thing I remember most is the cohesiveness of the team. In other words, they really truly did love each other. Sometimes they might get upset about this or that, but they really truly had each other's backs, and they were a good group of kids.
What were you finally thinking when that clock hit zero and you kind of came to the realization that UNLV was a national champion?
It was a sense of relief, finally achieving this goal, being able to do it for Vegas, because, when we came here, they didn't have a strong basketball program, and then to be able to do all that, and the excitement, the colorful excitement, and everybody rooting and supporting the teams, and that's a magnificent thing to have. It really is, and to be part of. When we came back, all the people that were there to meet the team, they had a parade downtown, and there's hundreds and hundreds of people that were there. Those are memories you'll have forever.
Just the validation that the national championship gave Coach Tarkanian, and we all got to see him on the sidelines and as a coach, but someone who knew him best, obviously his wife. Give us an idea, even following the national championship win, what was he like in the hotel? Was he giddy? Was he subdued? Was he, how was he after that win?
He had that big smile, It didn't leave his face. He was smiling all night long. He smiled. I have a picture of it on the bus coming home, and I'm next to him, just sitting there with that big smile. And I gave him a kiss. I was very happy because he had finally made that goal. He said, this national championship is for Nevada, particularly for our fans and the people in the Vegas area. We never thought that when we got married and he first started, we never thought that he'd be winning the national championship. We were thinking he would stay at the small school for a while. But he just got good, and he was so good at it, it just kept rolling and rolling. And at the end, he met that national championship.
Some really neat insight there from Lois Tarkanian. And Chris, while we were wrapping up the call, she was telling me she has stacks and stacks of scrapbooks from back then and invited us to come check them out. So I feel like that's another great interview opportunity coming up in the future.
Oh, wow, certainly is. That'd be great stuff. Thank you very much, Kevin.
Anthony will take it. That's his second field goal of the game.
All righty, welcome back to the show. This 1990 matchup was supposed to be a classic, and I guess it really was. If you're a Rebel fan, it was a classic indeed. UNLV had 3 NBA players off that title team. Duke had 4 on its roster. John Trich now joins us with more from Moses, who helped lead the faithful to the promised land. Hey, John.
That's right, Chris. 30 years has passed, and one incredible truth remains. You can recruit, but you can't recreate. Every talented roster, every powerful head coach, every UNLV fan tries to imagine a sequel, but there has just been once where the team and the town and the time led to a title in Las Vegas. We caught up with one man who lived through it all, and he still can't believe it happened.
It was the crowning achievement that created 3 decades of delight.
Went in a fashion that we did, 103-73. Against a top-notch team, Duke, which everybody on their team probably was All-American, high school All-Americans, and the way we destroyed them, it was unreal.
On a team full of stars, Moses Scurry stuffed the arena with passion, energy, and love for Las Vegas.
This town was all about unity, you know, and it was just a family thing, you know, just winning it in Vegas, and we were the only thing here at the time, so it was really a great moment.
In a city full of big-name shows, UNLV had the biggest, the best, and the most unbeatable.
Man, I used to love sitting on the bench and just watching the show, man. Larry Johnson, Stacey Augmon, Greg Anthony, Anderson Hunt, you know, just run the floor. The way they ran the floor, it was, you know, like I say, we wanted to play for Tarkin. Everything he told us, we trusted in him, and we believed everything he told us.
And you can't find the promised land from the desert without a Moses. The 6'7" New Yorker leaped off the bench and onto the cover of Sports Illustrated. He contributed to one of the greatest teams ever constructed.
You know, when I played, I gave the team that spark, you know. I mean, it was crazy, you know, just to see the shark, you know, going around the Thomas and Mack and the fans. You know, I will never forget that.
He'll also never forget the man who shares every sentence with Runnin' Rebel greatness.
Coach Tarkanian saved my life. Took me out of a terrible situation, which was, you know, I was raised in Brooklyn. You know, I'm glad I was, you know, because it taught me a lot coming out of Brooklyn. It taught me the toughness, you know, but Coach Tarkanian, father figure.
UNLV attacked the NCAA tournament with an assassin's focus and confidence. But that doesn't mean they weren't given a scare.
Almost lost to Ball State.
Okay.
I mean, it was, 1 or 2 points, something like that. We barely 2 points. We barely won that game. But after that, it was all downhill.
As for the highest scoring team in NCAA basketball history, 122-point game Loyola Marymount couldn't run with the Rebels.
They figured they outscore us, but see, like they always say, and it's a known fact, defense brings offense. You know, you can't score if you don't have the ball.
In the championship game, there was no good versus evil. There was good versus greatest of all time.
They were like the good guys, you know. I mean, whatever. But, you know, they downed us the whole way there. And that motivated us, you know, and, you know, thank them for the motivation.
He can still feel the celebration on the court. The 1990 Runnin' Rebels. Forever imitated, never duplicated.
And there's another scurry coming. Moses has a daughter who's a freshman at Desert Oasis High School, and she's pretty good. Chris?
All right, thank you very much, John.
They find Hunt. Gets inside, over Leitner for the field goal.
All right, welcome back to the show. This town was lit on April 2nd, 1990. One person who witnessed it all from the opening tip to the parade and later the celebration of the Thomas and Mack is our colleague, Ron Futrell.
You know, Las Vegas was a much different city in 1990. It was about a fourth the size it is now, but growth was on its way. The Strip was literally blowing up with the opening of the Mirage and the pending implosions of many Strip casinos. But the Rebels, they were the biggest show in town, no doubt about it. There was a bond between the team, the coach, and the community that was deep and real.
People that weren't living here in Las Vegas at the time just don't understand the impact that the basketball program had on the community. It was something that virtually everybody embraced and was a big part of their heart and soul, and they lived and died the losses and the wins. Fortunately, there weren't a whole lot of losses at that time.
Winning the national championship 30 years ago was the zenith. It brought this town, this community together like nothing before. And the Rebels, oh, by the way, yes, they were Rebels. It was a great fit for the city, the state, and the community. As for the game itself, it was remarkable for the records it broke.
Nobody realized just how big this year would be, but indeed, they win the national championship, and the Sharks does begin. 103-73, the final score. Yeah, baby, number one! Oh! Yeah!
Now, no team has ever scored more than 100 points in a championship game, and the 30-point margin of victory is also a record that still stands. Also, this was the last Final Four ever held in a small arena. 17,000-seat McNichols Arena in Denver. They're all held in Superdomes now. And UNLV is the last school from a small conference, the Big West, to win the national championship. Now, in fact, I recall the fans in the arena shouting, "Big West, Big West, Big West," across the arena to the Duke fans from the ACC to make that exact point. Also, I recall, now this story, there was about 2 minutes left in the game, Rebels up by about 28 points or so. I turned to Lois Tarkanian, who was clutching her rosary beads, seated just behind the media section. I said to her, come on, Lois, you're going to be fine with this one. Looks like a win for the Rebels. She clutched the beads even harder and said, Ron, come on. You know, with the NCAA, I got to keep praying. And who could blame her?
The margin of victory in the game made it less stressful. I mean, you weren't really worrying about whether we were going to win or not in the second half. It was just a matter of enjoying it. And I know my dad did a lot. He enjoyed it quite a bit.
For about a decade, the Rebels dominated the talk of college basketball. Who can beat the Rebels? Can anybody beat the Rebels would be the chatter back then, and for good reason. Tark had built a dynasty in the desert. And 30 years ago, this week, he finally got the hardware to prove it. Chris?
All right, thank you very much, Ron.
Stacy, there's that high lob. Duke was hoping to prevent it, but they could not.
And welcome back to the show. When you think about that game, boy, you think of the CBS broadcasting the game. One of the highlights, it was one of the highest rated games. For Rebel fans, there were so many highlights. Why not relive a few of those with the great Brent Musburger and Billy Packer on the call?
Leitner on a runner committed an offensive foul. Hunt's three.
Big play for Jerry Tarkanian.
Henderson's back.
He's special.
Pass now to Hunt. Score the triple. Great fans in Las Vegas, we should point out. You can hear the noise in the background. They have a lot of them in McNichols here tonight. As Sianovich hits the three.
Now, this win is for the kids, but it's mostly for the great people in the state of Nevada. The whole state supports us.
All right, UNLV's title didn't end in Las Vegas. The culmination of that exceptional year ended at the White House. All the players and coaches meeting with President Bush. He was presented a jersey, a basketball from one of the all-time great teams in college basketball history. Now, before we say goodnight, one thought from each of the sports team here at Channel 8 on that championship team. We all have memories of that great title run. Let's start with Kevany. Kevany.
You know, I would just have to say, listening to Lois share her memories of the team, I love the line when she said, quote, they really, truly did love each other. They really had each other's backs, end quote. And I think that was evident when you watched film from the national championship game and really the entire season. The chemistry that was on display was no accident.
Right, thanks, Kevany. Now, hey, John, somebody once said this cannot be a team of common men because common men go nowhere. Your thought on that title game?
I tell you what, for better or worse, I've never seen a town hold on to something more than this. I mean, UNLV has been haunted by that history because it was so magical and so extraordinary. And you just want to see if the fans can come back, if the arena can be filled, and if maybe some magic can return to Las Vegas when it comes to college basketball. But as we've seen, it's a once-in-30-year kind of history. Chris?
All right, thank you very much. Remember the movie Miracle, 10 years before UNLV won its title. Coach Brooks then said back then, hey, great moments are born from great opportunity. They were great. Ron, your thoughts on this team?
Yeah, how much time do we have, Chris? Can I give an hour or so? Okay, now let's go here real quick. I love the way the Rebel fans acted after the championship. You hear stories and you see the video of fans that destroy their cities after they win championships. They burn things down. They turn over cars. Vegas partied like rock stars that night. No question about that. And for the next week, the parties here in town. Vegas knows how to party. Let's go there. Vegas knows how to party, and the fans treated it with respect and dignity. And I do like the way that Vegas partied after that national championship. We can be proud of that, Chris.
All right, thank you very much, Ron. I think mine would be this. This team was labeled as thugs by the national media, but how many in the media came back later and pointed out that 10 of those 14 young men got degrees? Might also mention, like Ron mentioned earlier in this show, this was the last mid-major conference team to win a title. It was UNLV. And it was the last title game played in those smaller arenas. Now they're played in the gigantic stadiums. Hey, thanks for watching this Runnin For Glory program. There may never be another shining moment like this, but for Las Vegas, hey, that shiny moment still shines bright in the hearts of many Runnin' Rebel fans everywhere. Good night, everybody.
To its first ever NCAA championship game. It'll be Las Vegas against Duke Monday night.
Augment is the best finisher on the break that I have ever seen in college basketball.
Hunt's three. night belongs to Las Vegas. They have won their first ever national championship, and in 3 trips, the Shark.